I'm Matt Steiner, MDT shooter. I'm here with
Shane Ward
and Dave Ostrowski.
And we're going to talk about the top 10 accuracy tips that we see useful on our day-to-day routines.
They may work for you, they may not.
But this is what works for us, and we're going to share a little bit of that information with you today.
A common thing I see new shooters do is start with a cheek piece that is too high. Lowering your cheek piece allows you to get more upright on the rifle. With a higher cheek piece, you're applying more downward pressure. Pressure on the cheek piece throws off the rifle's balance, affecting NPA. My preference is more of a jaw weld, keeping my head upright without influencing the rifle.
Let's talk length of pull. There's a lot of thoughts and theories behind length of pull. But coming from the PRS world, I like a shorter length of pull because you spend a lot of time in a position where you're looking down at a rifle and you're not laying down on the rifle. So when that happens, you tend to need a shorter length of pull because when you're prone, you're going off the top of your shoulder, arms extended, kind of pushing everything forward on the gun. If you go to a positional stage, you're more upright, it sits a little tighter in. What that causes is if you have that long length of pull because you're a prone shooter and you get into a position, it's going to open your shoulders up. And that opening up is going to hinder your recoil mitigation. Therefore, it might knock you off target. The idea is you want to be as square to your rifle as possible. I like to shoot right in my collarbone, shoulder pocket area. Lots of other team guys like to bring it right into their inside collarbone on their jawline and with a more upright head. But length of pull is specific to certain people. Some have a longer, some have a shorter. That's why MDT, we have a lot of customizable options. The ACC Gen 2 Elites have a quick push button in and out, you make the adjustments. We have spacers that we can fit and form to the exact length of pull that you need. Now, the other piece of this is when I go prone, a lot of people are like, well, do you adjust your buttstock? No, I don't adjust my buttstock on the fly. I utilize a rear bag and I can get it almost between my shoulder and the gun, the butt of the gun there on the bag rider. I use that bag to eat up some of that space and some of that recoil.
One of the most important things I try to teach new shooters is the most important 20 seconds of a 10-round stage is the 2 seconds after each trigger press. The reason I say this is a shooter needs to follow through, watch where that shot goes, and process, make a correction before placing that next shot. Boom.
Probably one of the most important parts of accuracy is being as straight and square behind the rifle, having a very good natural point of aim. So through recoil, whether it be rimfire or centerfire mainly, the rifle's gonna settle back down on target as best that it can. Obviously, there are gonna be certain instances, certain props that you can't always get the best point of aim that you can, or natural point of aim. If you can get as square behind the rifle, repeatable, and if the rifle settle back down where it's supposed to, accuracy is going to be there.
One thing I like to do is shoot groups from a bench and then get on a prop and shoot the same group. You want to verify that you can make the same point of aim, point of impact shots from several different positions. A lot of times I'll do standing and kneeling. This goes back to cheek piece and scope height. You want to make sure in those different positions that you're not influencing the rifle, causing a point of impact shift. If you are seeing a point of impact shift, the combination cheek height, scope height, and your squareness behind the rifle can all influence these factors. Shooting your rifle in different positions will allow you to identify the problem areas so you know what to focus on.
All right, right now we're gonna talk about a little bit of recoil mitigation. A lot of shooters really don't understand how much body pressure, or lean is what some guys will call it, they need to put into a rifle to make sure that they can mitigate that recoil and keep the reticle on target. So pressure you use mitigating your recoil is dependent upon the caliber. Right now we're working with a 10-22. It's not gonna have a whole lot of recoil. So leaning into that gun, you don't need a whole lot of shoulder pressure. I truly prefer to drive it with my right hand, finger on, 3 fingers onto the bag. That way I can control, and you'll get on the rifle here. I'm on target. I don't have a whole lot of pressure back here or a lot of cheek weld. And I just wanna grip my hands slightly. My fingers are slightly pressed around the grip, and I can make slight adjustments to the cant with that hand grip and then come off of it to something light. When I'm ready to pull the trigger and I send that round with a rimfire, you're not gonna get a lot of movement. It's gonna move half a tenth or something, but your reticle is gonna stay on that target 100% of the time. Some guys prefer to go a hand up on top. You see guys do that with the centerfire as well. But when you start talking larger calibers, I shoot 308 in the Pro Series, it's got a little bit more recoil to it. So I tend to lean into that gun. Get my shoulder into it, set it into my shoulder pocket here, and I'm on this. What you tend to see happen is you get a little bit more movement down range because the more body pressure you put into the gun's more receptive to breaths, heartbeats, any kind of muscle flinch, and you'll see that in your reticle. What you can tend to do if you start seeing that, you get on a stage and you're leaning into your gun, you're really kind of, manhandling that rifle to mitigate that recoil, because the heavier recoiling gun, it has more chances of coming off target. If you miss the target, not be able to see, not be able to make your corrections. The way I'd like to do it, 308, lean into it, give it a little bit of muscle, lock out my right arm. That helps me keep the front of that muzzle down. When I pull the trigger, I may get something along the lines of this, where I pull around and I come up 2 or 3 mils, but I can still see the target and I focus my eye onto that target. That way, if I impact, I can see which way the target rocks. If I miss left or right, I can then use the reticle to measure from my hold and see what the actual wind call is and make the correction for a good follow-up shot. One of the things I also like to do is, if I'm in that position and I'm in a wobbly spot and I'm getting a lot of up and down on the rifle, if you take your body off of it, relieve some of that pressure and drive through it, the rifle calms down and you're able to maintain a better hold on the target with considerably less movement. If you're shooting a large caliber, you may end up hopping off of it, but you might deliver a better shot, because staying on target and seeing impacts, misses to make corrections is a vital key to success. A lot of the questions we get at the range, hey, what do you do to train? So I think that's the #1 tip, it's trigger presses. I like the 223 method because it actually gives me that recoil that dry fire doesn't. I used to train a lot with Keith Baker, and we would take 223s with 75 grain bullets, run them around 2900, and we would take the brakes off of them. Removing that little bit of that brake gives that 223 just enough push to make it feel like a 6mm. So it's a great practice tool. And we would work barricade drills for hours. I think 2 years in a row, it was almost 15,000 rounds. Calling out hits, calling out misses, forcing ourselves to slow down and see where we were hitting at. Now, ammo prices, they get a little high. So it makes sense to go to dry fire training. You can do it right in your garage. Another great option is the rimfire world. You can go buy a brick of ammo, $40 to $50, and you can work barricade drills. There's minimal recoil, but it's actual trigger presses. And you're seeing targets downrange. You can make general calls where you're hitting, where you're missing, make corrections, and it gives you that realistic appeal that centerfire has. Another thing that I would highly recommend for shooters is, if you're just new to the game and you're not sure about mitigating recoil, I highly recommend trying a heavier caliber to start. 6.5 Creedmoor is super popular, lots of factory ammo options, and it's great for recoil practice. I shoot a 308, also has a lot of great factory ammo options. Try one of those out. Practice with them, compete with them. Both of them have fairly long barrel lives as well, so you're not going to be replacing a barrel every 15 to 1800 rounds, which is also a huge plus if you're looking at some money savings.
If you have the opportunity, if you're a newer shooter, or I'll tell you, even if you're maybe in the sport just a year or so, try to shoot with better people. If you shoot with better people, they'll bring your game up and you'll learn a ton. You'll absolutely learn a lot of information from them. Anyone in this sport, in a PRS game, they're willing to help any new shooter. They'll give you all the gear they have in their bag. They'll let you shoot their rifle. If you want to try something new, if you want to look at a new optic, a new chassis, everyone's willing to help. In load development, again, whether you're shooting rimfire or centerfire, you want to have the most finest point of aiming that you can, so you can take out the mechanical error. So I always try to dial a tenth or two up and right, just so I have a constant aiming spot that doesn't change. It doesn't get riddled with bullet holes. I can then shoot the best group. If I'm going to zero, it's a little different. Then I'm going to try to get as close to center as possible, with the mechanical advantage or disadvantage of the scope. You try to shoot the smallest group in low development, just get the best accuracy you can.
PRS Pro Series 2-day matches. Everyone wants to know how to get better at those. Well, here's the simplest, easiest tip. Almost every pro match in the country offers a Friday train-up day. $30, $40, $50. Take advantage of it. You don't know what happens when you travel 8, 10, 12, 15 hours across the country to go compete. Well, whether it's TSA tossing it around like a rag doll or you hit some bumps in the car. You always want to make sure your data's right, your zero's good, and everything lines up out the distance. Most ranges have that availability. Work the props. That's your opportunity to go around and test to see what you need to do to be successful. So train up days, definitely a highly recommended option. You should always take advantage of it.